Now when they were going, behold, some of the guard. All right? So it's not one guard. A Roman guard consisted of anywhere from 12 to 60 men. So we're going to deal with just 12. So basically he says, you have a guard, that's 12 at least. Go your way, make it as secure as you know how. So they went and made the tomb secure, sealing the stone and setting the guard. Now, let's talk about the Roman guard for just a second. A Roman soldier was the baddest thing in the world at that time. A Roman soldier could whoop 12 ordinary men by himself. He was just that good. He was simply built for combat. Now, when it came to Jewish men and a Roman soldier, first of all, Roman soldiers tended to be big and tall, and Jewish men tended to be small and frail. That they didn't have a chance. Now, we're talking about 11 men who are mostly fishermen and one tax collector. They ain't ready to fight one Roman soldier, let alone 12. Maybe up to 60, but we're going to stick with 12. So you've got 12 soldiers plus the seal around this grave. And here's the deal. The soldiers know that if anything happens and this body ain't there when it's supposed to be, they will lose their lives. Because Pilate has said, make it secure. See, Roman soldiers, they function this way. They couldn't make a mistake. That would be death. So now you've got about a dozen pretty bad dudes. And a bunch of fishermen and a tax collector. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, ain't no way in the world, none, that the disciples were going to steal his body. It just wasn't happening. Not with this. So, what caused them this consternation was in verse number 63. They were worried because Jesus said, I'm talking about in chapter 27, Jesus said he would rise after 3 days. I want you to keep that in mind. The Jewish leaders were concerned, they were worried that Jesus might get up in 3 days. Well, we're going to talk about that in just a minute. So, I want you to look in chapter 28 in verses 1 through 8, and let's look at what happened. Now, after the Sabbath, as the first day of the week began to dawn. Notice the word dawn. So this means as the sun is about to rise. All right? Mary Magdalene and the other Mary came to see the tomb. In one of the other Gospels, we find out that there were actually 4 women that came. Verse 2, and behold, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat on it. Now, here we got these soldiers. When Mary and Mary's sister and the other lady showed up, what they see is this brightly shining individual who, as he comes, the earth begins to shake and the stone is rolled away from the tomb. All right? Now, where are the guards? Verse 4. And the guards shook for the fear of him and became like dead men. Now, that word shook in the Greek literally means that they were like the earthquake themselves. Think about this for a second. What they see is this celestial being show up, bright, the earth starts to shake, the stone is rolled away. They get so terrified that they faint. Okay, they fell out. We don't faint. They passed out. The reason they passed out is because of the shock of seeing this thing happen. Now think about this for a second. They've been warned to look out for some fishermen. Probably laughing about it. By the way, in case somebody may come to you and say, well, you know, maybe the disciples could have went and got a bunch of weapons. Jesus left that thing to us to understand that they didn't have anything, because at one point Jesus told them, you know, you looking for swords and stuff, and one of them said, we got 2 of them over here. Literally, they had 2 knives, 2 daggers. That's all they had. Jesus said, that's enough. You know why? Because they wasn't going. They had run away. They were not going to steal nothing. They weren't going. So here you got the soldiers and they see the celestial being show up, and then now they fall out. Something interesting though. In verse number 6 he says, he is not here. Now I want you to notice that. You might want to circle this and highlight this. A lot of people miss this. They did not have the stone rolled away so that Jesus could get out. He was already gone. I know we like to say it was early. Started when it got dark. He left at some point in the night after the sun went down. Now, since he was in his glorified body, he didn't need nothing to be moved. He just walked out. Where were the soldiers? They were probably there. He left. Not only did he leave, but the way that he left, he got up out of his grave clothes and they just settled back down. Except for one thing. The part that was wrapped around his head, it looked like he just unwrapped it, took it off the fold. He left. The reason the stone was rolled away was so that the Marys could get in to make sure that he wasn't there. He's already gone. The soldiers were already in trouble. They just didn't know it. Verse 7. And go quickly and tell his disciples that he is risen from the dead, and indeed, he is going before you into Galilee. There you will see him. Behold, I have told you. So they went out quickly from the tomb with fear and great joy, and ran to bring his disciples word. Ladies, it was women that actually took off with the first message of the resurrection. Something for you to be proud of. Now, the soldiers at some point wake up. Now, when they wake up, the stone is rolled away. There is no body. They're in trouble. Now we can get to verse number 11. Now, while they were going, behold, some of the guard came into the city and reported to the chief priest all the things that had happened. Now, I'm going to show you how you find out about rumors. See, the way you do with rumors, you start asking questions. Anybody ever told a lie and then somebody started to ask you questions? Be quiet. Anybody ever told a lie, somebody started asking you questions? You know what questions do? They start to dig at the lie, and if there's any real truth, there can be some answers. So let's start to ask some questions. First one I had was, what could result from the truth getting out for the soldiers? Why would they tell it in the first place? We know that failure was punishable by death. I have that's a question for me. What made them actually tell it? And notice it's not all of them, but it's just some of them. Now, in my simplified imagination, I can just see that some of them are sitting there going, look, I don't know about you, but look at what I saw. This guy showed up out of where? The thin air? Where did the light come from? Why did the earth start shaking? If I'm not mistaken, on Friday, we had an earthquake. If I'm not mistaken, on Friday, didn't the sun stop shining? Didn't we have an eclipse? Something ain't right here. Why are we guarding this thing in the first place? I just imagine that a few of them started to wonder, have we witnessed something that is extremely important and of some relevance? Maybe we ought to tell somebody. That's probably why all of them didn't do it, because some of them weren't worried about their lives. The second thing was, why even go and report anything? Well, perhaps they realized since the body was gone and since they've been warned that the disciples were probably going to tell it, they needed to go do something because the disciples were probably not running around telling everybody that Jesus had got up. They were in a world of trouble. So they had to tell somebody. But the part that gets me, why the chief priest? Why not